Hi there and welcome to another A Tippling Philosopher video. I'm going to speak to you about Ukraine and Russia because why not, everyone else is. And for good reason. Yeah, I've been pretty obsessed with the whole scenario, and it has obviously huge ramifications on everyone in the world, really, to some degree, whether they realise it or not, in the economic interconnectedness of global geopolitics. But I wrote a piece for Only Sky on which I'll just read to you, so hopefully it'll come across okay. But it's on the idea that the title was, or is, Putin meant to destroy Ukraine's identity. Instead, he's massively enhanced it. And it's this idea that the part of Putin's plans would have been, there would have been some aspect of, reducing the idea of Ukraine as a sovereign nation, pulling it into the Soviet Union as he hopes he could, bring back, and crush this identity of Ukraine so that it becomes the Ukraine again. But the exact opposite has happened. In fact, it has. What Putin has done has only served to enhance Ukraine's sort of sense of identity, both internally and externally, as far as the rest of the world is concerned. So I wrote, though it's hard to know all of Vladimir Putin's intentions in the invasion of Ukraine, one thing is for sure: he intended to destroy Ukraine's independent identity as he subsumed the sovereign nation into a rose-tinted reformulation of the Soviet Union. But of the many apparent blunders and miscalculations in this campaign, this failure may be the greatest. Instead of destroying Ukraine's identity in the minds and hearts of the global community, Putin has overwhelmingly enhanced it. Protests have broken out around the world in solidarity with Ukraine, even in Russia, where at last count over 4,000 people have been arrested, voicing their outrage at their government's actions. People and nations, TV stations and politicians the world over are calling in unison for Ukraine's freedom. The proud nation's national anthem has been heard more than it ever would have been without the invasion. The flag, the colours, the people, citizens and politicians alike, the cities, the maps, the history, and the name, even the name, we now know it is not the Ukraine, but simply Ukraine. The Ukraine refers to the region as it was within the Soviet Union, whereas Ukraine is a modern sovereign country. If you didn't already know that, you do now. I know it because of a viral meme, one of a torrent, that hit Facebook in response to the invasion. Everything in the news and on social media is about Ukraine. The country is on everyone's lips, in everyone's thoughts, and, rather less impactfully, in many people's prayers. The national colours of blue and yellow have adorned buildings around the world, from the Eiffel Tower to the Empire State Building, shining sympathetic foreign lights on the nation. Putin must be raging, burning on the inside like an out-of-control nuclear reactor. I recognised the name but thought it not possible, and now know for sure that the huge boxer I knew as Vitaly Klitschko is the mayor of Kiev, which is Kiev, not Kiev, as in Kiev, not Kiev. See what's happening? My knowledge of Ukraine is expanding as fast as a ruble is collapsing. I know where the main cities are, now understanding its geography in the context of the larger geopolitical region. I've listened to more people talk about their own Ukraine with beaming pride than I have any other person about their own country in years. Ukraine is on the map of my psyche, and I'm clearly not alone in this. And in that, Putin has shot himself in the foot with the TOS-1 multiple rocket launcher. That's gotta hurt. Problem is, an injured bear fights even harder, especially when its pride has been hurt. So trying to sum up this idea that we have all come to know so much about Ukraine. We've come to understand its history and its political situation with far more clarity than at any point in the past. And this has only been achieved with the invasion of Ukraine. Putin has now brought about a sense from the global community of a greater understanding of Ukraine's sovereign identity. And in that, Putin has failed. The dangerous thing is, Vladimir Putin is a narcissist. There's a really interesting Atlantic article about him as a narcissist and looking psychologically at that, and what we know about his early childhood. And being a narcissist, when your pride is hurt, when you are publicly humiliated, you become a very dangerous thing. So the question might now be, okay, he shot himself in the foot, but does he come back fighting harder? And by harder, I mean more violently and more destructively, you know, with a massive column. And I know most of what I say will be outdated fairly soon. I mean, there's a timestamp on this video because I'm talking about topical things that are changing daily. But presently there's a massive line, 5 kilometer line, 3 wide convoy of military armory that is sort of 60 kilometers away from Kyiv. So are we going to see just mass destruction now? Okay, there are talks going on, but really Putin must be raging and must be publicly humiliated, must be feeling that humiliation. Does he take that out on Ukraine? And then the flip side is, how are his army feeling? Are they feeling dejected, having gone in, low morale? They don't really know why they're there. They're poorly supplied, and you hear the captured Russian soldiers. They don't really know what's going on, and they weren't really expecting to see, you know, the Ukrainian defense as robust as it has been, but also the nation as a fully operational, you know, normal sovereign country. There's so much misinformation and disinformation going on within Russia. Anyway, you know, be interested in your thoughts. I've been pretty obsessed with the whole scenario, and some of my writing has been on that. Apologies if I haven't been on Facebook, on YouTube too much, but there you go. I'll try and give some more content over this next couple of weeks to make up for that. As ever, please like, subscribe, share, do all that stuff. Thanks for listening. Question everything, including yourselves, and especially with the information we are receiving about Ukraine. I mean, I've tried to read some of the other sides of the story. These things are always complicated. The international geopolitical landscape is a complicated one, and although it's really easy to blame Putin, rightfully so, we do have to take elements of responsibility upon ourselves for where we've got to. So the US and the UK as well, meddling in foreign politics, and NATO as well, sort of what really happened in 2014 to get Putin to take Crimea, annex Crimea. Was there some responsibility of the West in sort of meddling politically and economically in a way that that helped to lead to where we are now? I don't know, but you know, it's worth trying to understand the complexities of this. We live in a very simple society these days, in a sense, where things are so complicated that we just can't deal with that complexity. So we seek simplicity. I mean, the great documentary filmmaker Adam Curtis has covered this in some of his, The Power of Nightmares, and ones like Bitter Lake as well, where he looked at, say, the Afghanistan, or really from the 70s on, and the war on terror in Afghanistan, this idea that it's just good versus evil. Well, actually, that's such simplistic understanding of what's really going on, and you do a disservice to reality, but also you end up making poor decisions if that's your understanding of reality. And in this case, you know, yes, Putin is the aggressor here, and yes, Putin, you know, the world is reacting exactly correctly. But going forward, what exactly got us to this point, and are we always operating as the West, as NATO, as the EU, as the US, with all the agendas that we bring and all embroiled with corporate gains? Do we have some responsibility in you know where we are at with Ukraine or with any geopolitical global conflict? Yes, of course. It's never just good and evil. And look at us, the West, we're good. And look at the East, they're evil, or whoever it may be. It's always more complicated than that. But there is, you know, there's absolutely no doubt that Putin needs to be held to account, and it'll be interesting to see where this all goes and whether, you know, war crimes can be leveled directly at Putin, and how that kind of works as Russia as a nation goes forward. Anyway, starting to ramble, but there's so much of interest in this whole scenario, and so much sadness. There's so much death and destruction. We must not forget that this isn't just an interesting political scenario. There are millions of people who are in danger, who are being displaced, and it's terrible, absolutely terrible. So yeah, there you go. Comments down there. Would be interested to see what you guys think. And I'll probably get back to talking about other things soon.